Namaskar, welcome to this special edition of Insight Tonight with Ashok Vyas. And this is very special for me because I'll be talking to someone who has offered this wonderful, compelling read. And The Prince and the Nightingale book is the first novel written by someone whom we are going to be talking very soon. And there is something special about the book which he is going to reveal today for the first time on this show. And I have the pleasure of welcoming, what should I say, promising or established author Abhishek Bhatt. Namaste.
Thank you, Ashokji. Thanks for having me.
So let's begin play with this question. You consider yourself established? You considered yourself as a promising author?
Well, yeah, I would say if I were to choose, let's just say promising, because there's a long way to go, and hopefully this is a good start.
Now, there is love in you to narrate stories, which, of course, you have sharpened at UCLA screenwriting course. What is it about human beings which generally you find you are drawn to know more? And somewhere I was reading, you have mentioned in one of your conversations that you like to sit in the corner and observe people and how life unfolds. And talk to me a little bit about that, starting from the days when Abhishek was a student in a school.
Yeah, you got that right. So I don't know, I've always been the corner person. I like to observe, be it in school or even my office. It was established that my bosses used to reserve the corner seat for me. I don't like the limelight. For me, the best position is to sit in a corner and observe and enjoy myself. And when it comes to stories, I think I said it somewhere that I'm drawn to characters, whether it's in the book or in real life, characters that are imperfect, because they are always interesting. Kuch aisa tere kaam.
Yeah, I also read, I made just few notes, and one of them was you did mention that you are drawn towards imperfect characters. But is there any perfect human being?
There isn't. There is always people who call them perfect, or there's always that race to perfection, which I think sometimes people just do themselves a disservice on that race to perfection. I feel that people who kind of embrace their imperfection and know that they are not the perfect being tend to, be more interesting. So yeah, I agree. There is nothing like a perfect character, but people are in the illusion that they might be the perfect being. So that's what interests me.
So that means everyone under the sun is interesting for you also as an observer.
There is. When it comes to stories, however, there you will see in Bollywood and Hollywood or in certain literature, there's always this perfect hero. At least back in the day, there used to be this is the perfect guy, nobody can beat him, and all of that. So those used to be the boring stories I didn't like. I like the ones where there are shades of gray to any protagonist, and that's why I love the antagonist more. Jo samne wala banda hai. So yes, when it comes to stories, a lot of those stories where there are just perfect beings and they do nothing wrong, those kind of stories don't interest me.
So I will tease you by saying that here is a perfect book. When I say perfect book, the cover page is very good, The Prince and the Nightingale, and it is published by HarperCollins, and being a debut novel coming from Abhishek, there can be a better start which we would refer to as a perfect beginning. How do you feel?
To be honest, again to this point, the launch was nothing but imperfect, because we launched it in the middle of a pandemic. The second surge, ये मई में जब इंडिया का जो मई जून का जो सर्ज था, So, you work towards on a book for 2-3 years, you work towards the launch, and just when it's about to launch, you're hit with a surge. So it was a tough time to launch, but there were a lot of learnings. And what I liked was, everybody from my family and friends coming together to spread the word, and then slowly the word starts trickling in, and it got the right reviews, it got the right exposure, and we are still going. So in a way, whatever I had thought of that we are going to launch, it didn't work out that way. It worked out in a nice way in a different scenario.
So they say that every film also have its own destiny, and every book also brings its own destiny. We'll talk about destiny in the context of the way the plot of the book is laid out, and it is a new India. So there is a historical perspective of India at the backdrop. And if I read from the back of the book, it says, on the eve of India's independence, Maharaja Uday Singh, the king of Ranakpur, urges his children to find their place in the new India as their 600-year rule on the princely state comes to an end. Stripped of his royal status, Uday Singh's middle son Abhimanyu lands in Bombay to follow his passion, cricket. So, and then I would request you to reveal a little bit and sort of take our viewers to where is the plot of the story taking Abhimanyu while he's following his passion for cricket. There is a romantic angle also that emerges.
Yeah, so the idea of the story was just to tell the story of India from, right before the independence, after the independence, till, almost current times, till the 90s. Tell that story through the eyes of, two characters. Because you read about, independence and what comes after 60s, 70s, 80s, in your history books, and you know the highlights of what happened. But my main aim of telling the story was through the eyes of, a common person. And that was the first and foremost aim, just to keep it interesting. So what I liked was, how would, such big events be seen through the eyes of common people, and that's the reason I selected two characters. One who starts off right at the top, he's the king, a royal, and one who starts from the bottom, a struggling singer. And
her name is Meera Apte.
Her name is Meera Apte. And they come together, and through the story, they kind of level off at some point, and then they go the opposite. So just wanted to see that roller coaster ride on the backdrop of the changes happening in India. And what I liked about the story and what I've heard in terms of reviews is it combines the three biggest obsessions of India. So one is cricket, the other is Bollywood, and the third is politics. So it's a very delicate dance we are trying to do in this story. But first and foremost, it's a love story. So anybody can relate to the struggles and the highs of a good love story, and comes with not a perfect ending, and that's what life is.
It doesn't come with perfect ending, meaning they probably don't meet, is my guess. I haven't read the book yet. But let me request you to share the journey of creating or crafting this book, which involves a lot of research, I believe, because you are looking at India's history, you are talking about the way these royalties used to live, and if there is a transition in a young man's life from that kind of luxurious style of living to Bombay and living as a common man. So you probably were trying to read the mind of Abhimanyu, and talk to me about how you prepared for all this.
No, that's a really good question, Ashokji. I think there are like 2 or 3 levels of research I had to do. I am very grateful to my dad, who's full of stories, and this is his time, and he used to tell me about certain things that got me interested. In fact, when we were, on a road journey or something, he talked about, the royals of, yesteryears. So that was a starting point, and I got a lot of input from him when it comes to certain protocols and all of that. But the second was, it was literally, I'll give you an example. I had to write one sentence in this book, and to get that sentence right, I had to do 3-4 days of research, 3-4 days of reading a lot of books, talking to a few people. I spoke with doctors, I spoke with ex-convicts who were out of jail now, just to get that sentence right. So there was just a different level of research to be done, but I enjoyed the process. Actually, I just to get one page or one sentence right, you just go and do your own journey of research. I enjoyed that process.
Yeah. So Abhishek, I am tempted to ask you. You haven't lived in India for long, and the book kind of conveys a sense of the feel, the fragrance, the emotional equations which normally people have, the dreams which are rooted in Indian soil through your characters and the ambience which you have created. Let us look at your life in terms of different countries that you have lived, and then relating to the Indian spirit to present it in this form. So I'm probably repeating my earlier question, but it has a little bit different layer.
Yeah, no, look, I've been away from India for 20 years. I've been, I was living in Singapore, traveled around the world for work, and now I'm here. And for me, in a way, India still, I've spent my most formative years in India. So writing this book, it wasn't planned, but it was in a way trying to reconnect to my childhood. Places I still go and visit sometimes. So it was a good process for me to feel close to India, and I think writing a book is just the right way to reliving some of the memories of India.
So I'll read one para which kind of gives us a feel of the writing style, or why this book is so popular. You'll get a sense of that. So here are a few lines from a chapter which is 6th chapter, The Surest Way to a Man's Heart, and I take from page 66. Ranakpur is straight out of a storybook. Meera thought to herself, it was a city girl's first trip out of Maharashtra. The long train and car ride were a first as well. But only when she entered the grand palace did it dawn upon her that she was in a relationship with a royal. The same unassuming loner who looked completely out of place in Bombay was right at home in this palace with over 100 rooms. So this one paragraph kind of gives the backdrop of the environment which is a part of the process of growing up for Abhimanyu as well as Meera. Now, I'll talk to you a little bit, or rather I would request you to talk to us a little bit about your writing style. If it is too terse, if it is bombarded with very heavy words, you would lose many readers. But you have kind of figured out a fresh, flowing way of saying what you are saying, packing information, and managing to sustain interest. It just happened. This is something you worked consciously at UCLA. Talk to me about drafting and redrafting process.
Yeah. No, I've heard that feedback as well. That it's a very fluid read. I guess first and foremost, my writing style is based on stuff I like to read. I do not like frivolous words and no frills. I want to get to the point. Those are the kind of authors I read.
Who are your favorite authors?
Well, I mean, look, one of my favorite author is actually an American author. His name is Kurt Vonnegut. He's no more, but he was from Chicago. He used to write science fiction, speculative fiction, but with a lot of humor. And his style was something that, me as a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old could really enjoy. So that was my first exposure to, the style of writing that is really accessible, but at the same time is not oversimplified. So that's where it comes from. But even my training in UCLA, I've spent a lot of time in advertising as well, and my trade is to use the minimum amount of words to convey an idea. So even back in the days, we used to have like 30 seconds to sell a product, right? So you cannot beat around the bush on that. Just get to the point, because people are busy and just grab them in the story first, and then you'll have the liberty of, moving around. The story starts like that. It just grabs you in, and once the reader has your attention, you can then take them to a journey, slowly cajole them, and take their time. So that's I wouldn't call it training. It just comes organically to me, and that's the way I write.
And as I was reading about the book and the theme, one I would also like to mention that you have dedicated this to your father, and he narrated the outline of the story on which you have woven this whole novel. So what was so fascinating, we must also compliment his narration, which made such deep impression on you, with the potential of writing a novel. Talk to me about that conversation, and while you were kind of churning the idea that it is worth penning. And
yeah. Look, first of all, even if my dad narrates his trip to the grocery store, you will be fascinated. So he's got that knack. But no, what I like about what he narrated, it was just a small incident of his childhood. I just thought that, we kind of take for granted the amount of changes that have happened over the last 50 years. The dramatic events of the mid-century and all that. So I really found that as a seed. I was fascinated by that, and I started exploring. And then I'm trained in storytelling, so I guess his narration was just the right seed which I needed to then take it to a full-length novel.
So I'm kind of giving away something, not too much, Abhishek ji, with your permission, but you have it in the beginning of the book, in the prologue itself. You say that, and I feel sad that we are reading a love story which is in flashback, more or less.
Yes.
Because you have said it was in the newspapers, not in the national dailies, but in the Ranakpur Chronicle, in the issue dated so and so. Basically what you have shared with your readers is, Abhimanyu Singh died here in Bombay at Bridge Candy Hospital on Sunday following a protracted illness, a member of the Ranakpur royal family of Rajasthan. He was also a former first-class cricketer, a former manager of the Indian national cricket team, an ex-chairman of its selection panel. He had been suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Now, let me read one more line. Singh was also a close associate of the melody queen, Meera Apte. Now, when you mention suffering from Alzheimer's disease, that also adds a lot of scope of imagination, as well as you take your readers with you on a little bit of a sympathetic corridor. I mean, so, and you have also mentioned that it is not a perfect ending. Can you elaborate a little bit about these characters and the way they interact with each other and what they learn, or they probably hurt each other also?
Yeah, no, I mean, not to reveal too much of the story, but what I liked about this story, and when I was writing about it, and some of the stories I like, is that feeling when the story ends, you're not sure whether you should feel happy or you should feel sad. You're not sure whether the characters achieved what they wanted or they did not. I like to leave that to the audience to decide. I want them to, take that feeling, think about, those questions themselves. But first of all, be thoroughly entertained. So I think that's the gist of the story. The two characters who wanted something, who end up actually achieving some of it, but they achieved much more than they had imagined, but not the thing that they wanted. So I think that's life. Like you have your goals. You don't ever, you don't always get your goals, but in the journey kind of learn something.
So indirectly, if I put what you are saying, then you count your blessing because you didn't get what you aspired for, but you got something else,
Exactly.
and which is equally or maybe more valuable sometimes. And if we look at the reviews for the book, and quoting Ansal Mehta, a timeless love story so melodious that its resonance is felt much after one finishes reading it. That's beautifully put. Share your feeling on some of the other reviews which you received for the book.
Yeah, I really, the bulk of reviews were really positive in terms of this being not your. Let me just start again. Sorry. So I would say the bulk of reviews were really about the characters. Like people really related to Abhimanyu and Meera. I heard that there's just a lot of ambition. There is love, of course. There's history. So I feel that people don't really take this as love story only. There are certain other things that they liked. And you mentioned Hansal Mehta. I mean, I've been a big fan of him, and it's always good to get a good word from your heroes. So I was really excited about that.
Talk to us a little bit about Ranakpur Palace and how significant role this place plays in the way your story unfolds.
Yeah, for me, it plays a really, really important role because, Ranakpur, of course, is a fictitious place, but to me, it's Rajasthan. So that's where I am from. I probably spent like 2 years there, but I do go back, and I just love the canvas of that state. I love the palaces and the grandeur of that place, and combine that with the commoner narrow streets and all of that. So that's a feeling that I think lends itself well to the story, and that's why for me Ranakpur is almost like a character for the story.
So Abhishek, talk to me a little bit about the role which imagination plays in any creative activity, whether you were in advertising or writing a fiction, and is it something which you are gifted with, or is there a way to enhance your faculty of imagination?
I mean, I don't think it's imagination is like gifted just to only a few. Like, in fact, when we are kids, when we are children, we imagine a lot, and then I feel slowly as we're going to grow up and go through education and all that, you're told not to imagine things. So I think the best way is for anybody is just to let themselves go, just keep exploring. Anybody is capable of imagining things, being creative.
Okay, so let me sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
When you have a book like The Prince and the Nightingale, which is a wonderful read, it flows, and as you mentioned, it is thoroughly entertaining. That was the idea, and it is set in Bollywood also. I mean Mumbai also. Then you must have thought about the possibility of this becoming a film, and I am aware that that dream, or if we call the seed of imagination, to visualize this movie, this as a movie, is also a reality now, or almost becoming a reality. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So here's how it played out. So I have my agent Anish Chandi, who represents this book, and he thought he was first interested in the story because it was a very visual story. So it works as a book, but he also thought that, this is a very visual story and should be, at least pitched for a film adaptation. And it was then Mr. Sunil Bora and Prableen from Bora Brothers and Almighty Pictures who really saw that potential first. So kudos to them. They literally got it, saying, this could be a great adaptation. And then Sunil ji passed it on to Mr. Hansal Mehta, who really liked the book so much, and he was graceful enough to lend his quote on the book. So I think it is like we are off. Obviously, this process takes long, but we are close to getting a film adaptation for this book. And my hope is that I continue getting
Congratulations,
Thank
congratulations, Abhishek Bhatt. And while we compliment him on having his first book very soon to be seen in the form of a film, it is also possible for us to connect with the book through audio medium. Who has lended his voice, and how did you feel while you heard the audiobook?
I felt amazing. I especially during the pandemic, I myself am a big audio listener. I listen to podcasts and all that. And so when Harper decided to release this also as an audiobook with an amazing, talented, talented voice, I was really stoked about it. I think, like I said, it's a visual medium. So even if you hear to the audiobook, maybe on your way to work, or if you want to just have a relaxed weekend, they've done wonders with that.
So wonderful. Thank you very much. Just 30 seconds, and what next?
Well, for me, I want to just keep at it, write new stories. I have a bunch of ideas, but before that, I want to complete this journey to a beautiful conclusion. Whether be it, I just want this book to be with as many readers as possible, and hopefully get a film done.
Definitely, I hope that's going to happen soon, and at least there are many readers who are looking forward to reading The Prince and The Nightingale, and some of them would also enjoy listening to it, as well as we will wait for the movie when it comes. But such a pleasure meeting you. Lots of good wishes.
Thank you
very much for being a part of.
It was my pleasure being here. Thank you.
As we thank Abhishek Bhatt, congratulating him, wishing good luck for the book as well as for the upcoming film. Thanks to all of you for being a part of this conversation. This is Ashok Vyas.